In many parts of the world, traditional gender norms and social structures often limit the roles and opportunities available to women. However, there have been a few notable exceptions that have challenged these conventions. One such case being the female bodyguards who served under the authoritarian rule of Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Today, we're going to explore the fascinating world of Gaddafi's elite female bodyguards in Libya. Get ready for an amazing story. If you're new to our channel, please leave a like as well as a sub so you never miss another video. Muammar Gaddafi was the leader of Libya for over 40 years. He was known for doing things differently, and one of the most unusual things he did was to have female bodyguards. These weren't just any women, they were highly trained and very loyal to Gaddafi. Let's dive into their story and find out what made these women so special. Gaddafi came to power in Libya in 1969. He had big ideas about changing his country, and one of the things he wanted to do was give women more rights. In 1979, Gaddafi opened a special military school just for women. This was a big deal in a country where women didn't usually do jobs like being soldiers. The school taught women how to use weapons and how to protect important people. Some of the best students from this school were then chosen to be Gaddafi's personal bodyguards. These women became known as the Amazonian Guard, or the Revolutionary Nuns. Becoming one of Gaddafi's bodyguards wasn't easy. The women had to go through really tough training. They learned how to shoot guns, how to fight, and how to spot danger. But it wasn't just about physical skills. These women also had to learn about Gaddafi's ideas and beliefs. They had to be completely loyal to him. The training was so hard that only the very best women made it through. Those who did became part of a special group. They got to travel with Gaddafi and protect him wherever he went. So what was it like to be one of these bodyguards? Well, it was a pretty exciting job. These women would wake up early and start their day with exercise. They had to stay fit and strong. Then they would check their weapons and make sure everything was ready for the day. When Gaddafi went out, the bodyguards would go with him. They would stand around him in a circle, always watching for any danger. They wore special uniforms that made them easy to spot. Sometimes they even wore high heels and makeup, which was unusual for bodyguards. The job wasn't just about standing around, though. These women had to be ready to act fast if anything happened. They were trained to protect Gaddafi with their own lives if they had to. Gaddafi's female bodyguards weren't just there to protect him. They were also a symbol of his ideas about women's rights in Libya. In many countries nearby, women weren't allowed to do jobs like being soldiers or bodyguards. But Gaddafi wanted to show that in Libya, women could do anything men could do. He said that his female bodyguards proved that women were equal to men. These women became famous around the world. People were surprised to see women doing such an important job in a country where women usually didn't have much power. Let's talk about one of these bodyguards. Her name was Fatima, and she was one of Gaddafi's most trusted protectors. Fatima joined the military academy when she was young. She worked hard and became one of the best students. And when she graduated, she was chosen to be part of Gaddafi's guard. Fatima traveled all over the world with Gaddafi. She stood by his side during important meetings with other leaders, and she was always ready to protect him if anything happened. But Fatima's job wasn't just about being a bodyguard. She also became a spokesperson for women's rights in Libya. She would talk to reporters about how women in Libya were free to do any job they wanted. Fatima's story shows how being a bodyguard for Gaddafi could open up new opportunities for women in Libya. Being a female bodyguard in Libya wasn't always easy. These women faced a lot of challenges. First, there were people in Libya who didn't like the idea of women being bodyguards. They thought it wasn't a proper job for women. The bodyguards had to deal with these negative opinions all the time. Second, the job was really dangerous. These women had to be ready to risk their lives to protect Gaddafi. There were times when they faced real threats. Third, being a bodyguard meant these women didn't have much of a personal life. They had to be ready to work at any time, which made it hard for them to have families or do other things they might want to do. Despite these challenges, many women still wanted to be part of Gaddafi's guard. They felt proud of their job and believed they were helping to change things for women in Libya. One of the most interesting things about Gaddafi's female bodyguards was how they looked. Their uniforms were not what you might expect for bodyguards. Sometimes these women wore military-style uniforms with camouflage pants and jackets, just like regular soldiers. But other times, their outfits were much fancier. On special occasions, the bodyguards would wear bright colors like red or green. They might have gold buttons on their jackets, and some even wore high-heeled shoes. The bodyguards also wore makeup and styled their hair. This was very different from male bodyguards, who usually try not to stand out. Why did they dress this way? Well, Gaddafi wanted his female bodyguards to look both strong and feminine. He thought this showed that women could be powerful and beautiful at the same time. Remember the special military school for women that Gaddafi started? Let's talk more about what it was like there. This school was in Tripoli, the capital city of Libya. Young women from all over the country could apply to study there, but only the best were chosen. At the academy, the women learned all kinds of things. They had classes about Gaddafi's ideas and the history of Libya, and they also learned practical skills like how to use different weapons and how to fight. The training was tough. The women had to wake up early every day and do a lot of exercise. They practiced shooting guns and learned how to protect important people. Not all the women who studied at this academy became Gaddafi's bodyguards, but they all learned skills that could help them get good jobs in the military or police. To understand why Gaddafi had female bodyguards, we need to know more about how he treated women in Libya. When Gaddafi came to power, he made a lot of changes for women. He said that men and women should have equal rights, which was a big deal in a country where women hadn't had many rights before. Gaddafi made laws that said women could go to school and get jobs just like men. He even said that women should be able to join the army if they wanted to. Having female bodyguards was a way for Gaddafi to show that he believed in these ideas. He wanted to prove that women could do even the toughest and most important jobs. But it's important to know that not everyone in Libya agreed with these changes. Some people thought Gaddafi was changing things too fast, and this made life complicated for women in Libya, including the female bodyguards. Gaddafi's female bodyguards became famous around the world. Several moments really got people's attention. One time, Gaddafi was giving a speech in Italy. Suddenly, a man in the crowd tried to attack him. But before he could get close, two of Gaddafi's female bodyguards jumped in front of their leader. They protected him with their bodies. Another famous moment was when Gaddafi visited France. His female bodyguards came with him, wearing their colorful uniforms. People in France were really surprised to see women bodyguards, and it was all over the news. These moments helped make Gaddafi's female bodyguards famous. People around the world became curious about who these women were and why they were willing to risk their lives for Gaddafi. The year 2011 marked a pivotal turning point for Libya, as the country descended into civil war amid widespread protests against the long-standing rule of Muammar Gaddafi. During this tumultuous period, Gaddafi's elite female bodyguards remained steadfastly by his side, continuing to provide protection even as the situation grew increasingly dire. In October 2011, Gaddafi's rule came to a brutal end when he was captured and killed by rebel forces. With the collapse of his regime, the fate of his female bodyguards became uncertain. Some reports suggest they fought to the bitter end in a desperate attempt to defend their leader, while others speculate that they may have defected or fled the country to avoid reprisals. Today, the special unit of female bodyguards no longer exists in Libya, and the military academy that trained them has been shuttered. Yet, the legacy of these women endures, serving as a complex and multifaceted symbol in the ongoing struggle for women's rights and equality in the country. On one hand, the female bodyguards' very existence challenged traditional gender norms, demonstrating that women could excel in roles typically reserved for men. They served as powerful role models, inspiring Libyan women to pursue careers and positions of influence that had previously been out of reach. In this sense, the bodyguards helped to reshape perceptions of women's capabilities and potential within Libyan society. However, critics argue that Gaddafi's use of female bodyguards was a cynical ploy to bolster his public image and distract from the broader oppression of women under his regime. They contend that the bodyguards, despite their outward displays of power and authority, ultimately lacked true autonomy and were ultimately subservient to Gaddafi's whims. The story of Gaddafi's female bodyguards is not unique in the global context. Women have served in similar protective roles in other countries, such as Israel's military and the United States Special Forces. Yet, the Libyan case stands out, as it occurred in a Middle Eastern nation, where traditional gender roles and norms often constrain women's participation in such domains. The lasting impact of Gaddafi's female bodyguards on Libyan society is multifaceted and complex. For some, they represented a groundbreaking step forward in the fight for women's rights and equality. For others, they symbolized the facade of progress, masking the persistent marginalization of women. Regardless, the story of these women continues to be a subject of intense debate and reflection as Libya grapples with the ongoing challenges of social and political transformation in the wake of Gaddafi's downfall. Today, we've explored the fascinating story of Gaddafi's elite female bodyguards. We've learned about who these women were, how they were trained, and what their lives were like. We've seen how these bodyguards were more than just protectors. They were also symbols of women's rights in Libya. Their story helps us understand the complicated situation for women in Libya during Gaddafi's rule. What do you think about this story? Do you think having female bodyguards was a good way to promote women's rights? Or do you think it was just for show? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like as well as a sub so more people can see this.